Apprehend God in all things, for God is in all things. Every single creature is filled with God and is a book about God. Amen. It's almost the new year. 2 more days, right? So, because it's almost the new year, and I was driving around all Tennessee the last few days, listening to a bunch of radio, and they start talking about the end of the year stuff, you know? All the end of the year things, all the things that happen in the end of the year. And I was thinking about that for a little bit, and then that got me thinking about not just this year, but when Cindy and I and our children first came to Knoxville. And that was 20 years ago. A collective sigh. Right? 20 years ago. Oh, my gosh. And, you know, I don't know if you've moved, but moving in somewhere new, thinking about what are the people going to be like here? What's the culture like here? What do people like to do? Are we going to fit? You know, all those things came rushing back. And 2 stories in particular came to my mind. And I can't remember the chronology, so don't hold me to that. But there are 2 stories of when we first got here. First was our kids were little, and our neighbors had a couple of children right around the same age. And they asked if they could come over and play. And we said, sure. And went down to their house, which wasn't too far from ours, and found out that they took a hose, and they had a pickup truck, and they filled the back of the pickup truck with the hose. And then they went swimming. And I thought, huh. Now that's a new one. I've never seen that before. But, you know, I didn't make any comment on that because my kids were having a good time. So I figured, okay, they're having fun. Knoxville's not too weird. But then a neighbor came over, and she came over, and she was carrying a pie. And I was like, oh, yum, a pie. It's like peach pie, apple pie, cherry pie. And she didn't say. She just stood there, and we were talking. It was pleasant. She was nice. And then she said, I made a tomato pie. And I was like, on the outside, I was like, oh, good. On the inside, I was like, ugh. Who would do that to a pie? Who would do that to a tomato? I've never heard of such a thing. I mean, that's a thing here, right? Tomato pie, and it was not a thing anywhere else I'd ever been. And so I was pretty grossed out by it. And I was like, Knoxville is just weird. Pickup trucks with water in them and tomato pie, we're never going to make it here. And as I was thinking about that, I just realized how easy it is, how simple it is. It just must be part of human nature, just to start to label or judge or criticize anything that seems out of my ordinary, anything that seems not normal. It's just so easy to do that. Tomato pie? See, to you guys, it's normal. But to me, it wasn't. And it's so easy to do that with things, and especially with people. Right? They're not what we think they should be. They're different. They're weird. It's so easy to have those judgments, isn't it? Am I alone in that? Yeah, right. I think it's part of human nature. I think we do that. So a few years ago, because it's part of my nature, I started doing something. It's probably about 10 years ago. Every time I started to label, criticize, or judge somebody or something, I remembered today and what we're going to do today. You know what that is? Baptism. I remembered my baptism, and in particular, I remembered my baptismal covenant. And we're all going to say this in just a few minutes. This baptismal covenant. So anytime the judgment or the labeling or the, oh, that's weird or that's strange comes up, I say to myself, well, Thom, you said you will seek and serve Christ in all persons, loving your neighbor as yourself. You said you would do that. You said you're going to seek and serve Christ in every person, which means that every person contains a bit of God within him or her and can reveal God to me. So before I just cast them off, this pulls me back and reminds me that every single person is worthy of dignity and respect because life is sacred, this says. All life is sacred. And it also says that when I fall short of that, then I get to try again and again and again. Because God reveals God's self in lots of ways. And if I shut out anybody, I miss that part of God. Do you get that? And that's what this says. That's what we're all going to say this, unless you choose not to. We are all going to say, life is sacred. Life is beautiful. And we will try over and over and over again to treat one another with dignity, with respect, and with love, regardless of who the person is and whether I like them or not. And we'll try again. I wish we could say this every week, just to be reminded over and over again, because this is an action plan. We say the creed every week, but the creed oftentimes gets stuck up in our minds about belief. This is living. This is, if you don't have a New Year's resolution yet, pick one of these or pick all of these and say, I'm going to try to live this way this year and see what it does for you. Because what it does for me when I remember this is it makes life sacred. So we're getting ready to baptize Ethan, a beautiful, sacred child of God, with parents who love him, and grandparents too. Even Matthew loves him. And we're getting ready to do that. And all of us are getting ready to say, Ethan, whenever we're around you, we're going to try to show you how to live, and we're going to use this as our basis. Because you're that important. You know, I never have swim in the back of a truck yet. And I don't want to, so don't. But I did try the tomato pie. We tried it. And you know what? It was good. All right. Now let's stand and sing this song on the front of your service sheet.